Hello. Good evening. My name is Gomez-Delgado. Tonight we're gonna play the music of Lorenzo del Mar, who invented this instrument over here. We have a picture of the making of the original one. This one is one I made according to his specifications. And so first we're going to play some of the compositions that he wrote that I rearranged. They're all called Mona something. Thank you, thank you. Those are all compositions by the person we're talking about today, Mr. Del Mar. I wanted to talk about his life and how he came to create this instrument. Lorenzo Del Mar was born in 1903 in Jayuya, Puerto Rico, and as a child he moved to Harlem in New York City. And he grew up as an amateur musician by night working at this place called the Toreador on 110th on Central Park. And the Toreador was basically a place like the Cotton Club where only whites were allowed to attend, but it was a full Latino review of music. So they'd have Cuban music, they would have Puerto Rican music, Mexican music, and the popular tango of the time. And so Lorenzo would play every night many sets at this place. Didn't pay that great, but it was money. But during the day, he worked in this factory where his job was to punch holes in the player piano rolls. So this machine would basically put the pen marks as to where the holes had to be, but then somebody had to go in and actually put the holes in them. And that's what he did for the day, and at night he played the clubs. One of the things that was also inside these factories was the owner collected other mechanical instruments such as calliopes. Here we have a calliope that has percussion added to it, these little drums. These are all automatic with also player piano rolls. So the calliopes and all these mechanical instruments sort of gave him a basis of instrument making and sort of the ideas of how to put things together. And of course, playing Latin music at night seemed like it would be a rich life, but it was a very hard life that he had. One night, a gentleman came to the Toreador by the name of Percy Saint, owner of the Mona Island Phosphate Company, actually. He came all the way from the south, and somebody brought him to this club to show him a good time. And Percy was so taken back by Lorenzo's band, he approached the band leader, which was not Lorenzo, and said, well, I'm not going to fake a southern accent, but he said, well, I'm really amazed by your music. I've never heard such music before. I actually own the Mona Island Phosphate Company, and I would like to contract you to come play for the middle management of the people that run the guano mines in this island of Mona, which is in the Caribbean. I'll talk about the island in just a second. So here's Percy saying, and of course, he's like, oh, I'll pay you well, I'll pay you the boat ride there, on and on and on. And of course, so they say, yeah, we're going to get out of New York, we're going to go to the Caribbean close to home and play music. And the idea was to play for the New Year's party for the middle management. This is 1927, so they're playing for the New Year's 1928 party. So Isla de la Mona is exactly, it's right here, and it's exactly in between the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico. Isla de la Mona has a rich history in that it originally was populated by the Taino Indians, and you could see carvings in the rocks by the native people of the islands here. And then it was actually, and this is no joke, it was actually used by pirates. A lot of pirates would hide treasure there, and they would hide away from the law. People actually still go there looking for lost treasure. So the island is filled with caves all around. It's built like a cake. And all along the edges here are 300-foot cliffs. We go to the next slide. Here are the cliffs. And they're all filled with caves. This is a more recent picture. There's a lot of vegetation, a lot of trees that are gone, that would have been farmed out. But inside these caves, for thousands of years, lived bats and birds. And of course, they would poop in there. And that's what we call guano. For those of you that might not know, guano is basically bat poop. This guano was great fertilizer. And it also was great for gunpowder. And so the Germans, before World War I, were importing from Peru and also from Mona here in the Caribbean lots of guano for fertilizer. Also, when the war started and World War I started, was for gunpowder, of course. Mona in Spanish means monkey, but it's actually not Monkey Island. It's Amona is a native term that means center. So it just went from Amona to Mona. So it sounds like it's Monkey Island, but it's not Monkey Island. It's Central Island. And so back to Lorenzo and his group. They came all the way from New York to Puerto Rico first. They stopped by in San Juan. It was a 6-hour boat ride to Mona. Once they got there, they had to walk 2 miles around the island and then go inside a cave where there was a man-made staircase that went all the way up to the top. Once they got there, they had to take a donkey, this thing right here, basically, whatever that's called, a trolley, a donkey trolley? Donkey rail, thank you. And they took that for about a mile, and then when you got to that, you got to this lighthouse. And this is the biggest building in the whole island. And that's where they were having the New Year's party. After this whole trip, Lorenzo saw this beautiful island, even though there was horrible work going on there, but there were also families there whose sole purpose was to farm for the guano workers. He got there and he was like, I'm tired of New York, I'm tired of I can't go back on this trip again. So the lighthouse keeper was actually quitting. So he decided to take the lighthouse job and told his band, like, I'm sorry, I'm gonna stay. That right there is quite powerful because for a lot of Puerto Ricans, the sort of the dream is to, you go to New York and then you can one day retire and go back to Puerto Rico. And Mona is officially part of Puerto Rico, but it's not really Puerto Rico. It's 6 hours away. But it's the next best thing for him. So they played the New Year's party. It went great. It was a bittersweet. His band, was definitely going to go back. He said bye to them and met some of the island's middle management. He had very little contact with the actual workers, unfortunately, until the band left. And he started, that was his job was, day in and day out. Once he stayed, he started meeting people from the island, and he had one conga, one guitar, and we played for them. And he even started courting a farmer's daughter, I believe, or who knows about that, but that's what they say. And he was actually pretty happy. Now the Germans had discovered had invented artificial fertilizer, and all of a sudden the guano industry just totally went under. And Mona, being one of the smallest mining places, just went under. And so in 6 months of him moving there, the Mona Phosphate Company moved out. And so all the families that were supporting the miners also moved out. And so all of a sudden, he's alone. He's the only person on this island. And he has a 3-year contract, and he has to serve it, and he has nowhere to go. So, there he is. So this is sort of where actually the story almost begins. time, he started going into the workshop in the into the workshop and building gadgets that would allow for him to play all these parts. And he built a special guitar, and out of wood, he started building drums and pedals, and then he'd take the springs out of his bed mattress to make the pedals spring back. And he practiced for years, and he would be alone. He would just practice for years and years by himself, trying to reach afinque, trying to reach a state of the closest where he would come to humanity, which is to be the interceptor of all these conversations. That's as close as he could hope to be, until one day he met somebody. But that's another story.